So how about this image here to my right? James Harden with the Philadelphia 76ers practicing today as Sixers training camp is officially underway at Colorado State. And look, I know I'm not the biggest James Harden guy. He looks to be in pretty solid shape. No fat suit here. We're going to talk about that. Stephen A. Smith ripping him and a whole lot more here on the docket for today's 76ers. Now, first though, want to say thank you to all of the real ones out there. We surpassed 12,000 subscribers. Let's continue to grow the empire. Join the movement. If you're looking for year-round Sixers content, this is the spot for you. Hit that sub button down below. So story number one that I want to talk about here on today's show, James Harden reporting to Colorado State, practice with Philadelphia today. Nick Nurse said the expectation moving forward is that James Harden is going to be a part of this team and this organization, and the expectation is that he's going to continue to partake in practice. And Tobias Harris also said that with how James Harden practiced today, they're also expecting him to be a part of this team because it looked as though he was taking the game of basketball seriously. I do want to go through this report from ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski. It certainly is notable and interesting on a couple of fronts, and I'll explain why here in just a moment. He said, James Harden is participating in practice with the 76ers Wednesday, Colorado State University. Deion Sanders, by the way, talking to the team yesterday. Harden rejoined the team for the second day of practice under new head coach Nick Nurse after he had skipped both media days Monday at the team's facility in Camden, New Jersey, as well as the opening practice of training camp at Colorado State on Tuesday. Harden's decision not to come Monday was the latest push in his desire to be dealt to the Los Angeles Clippers. But although the two teams have talked recently, there's been no traction on a deal, sources told ESPN. To that end, Harden on Friday was paid the 25% of his contract he was scheduled to receive by Sunday, sources said, after already having received the 25% payout he was scheduled to. Unlike the Ben Simmons situation 2 years ago when he was not with the team all the way up until he was dealt to the Brooklyn Nets for Harden at the trade deadline, there is no animus between Harden and his teammates. Unlike the Ben Simmons situation, it seems as though Sixers players are actually glad that Harden is there, and they understand that he's unhappy right now, but he's not as much of a flake as Ben Simmons. But what a conversation and what drama this organization has had to go through with the Simmons saga, who was practicing at training camp with the damn cell phone in his pocket before he loafed around, and then Glenn Rivers had to send him home, and James Harden, who at least looks to be in pretty solid shape with this photo that we're about to show you. And Sixers players went out of their way to say, like, James Harden came to practice, he seemed prepared, he seemed ready to play basketball, and the distractions were not getting in front of him as a basketball player. We know oftentimes that Harden can get in his feelings. And when it comes down to a situation like this, sometimes it comes down to the simple fact that you're looking for leverage here. Harden and his camp, they want to go to the Clippers. But they know that the pressure is on Harden to perform, play well, be in shape, because he's 33, 34 years old in the final year of his contract, and no team out there wanted to give him that large deal that he was seeking. So that's why he had to exercise that one-year option to come back with Philadelphia to get that $35, $36 million. And for Harden, like, the pressure is on him. I thought Matt Barnes, as we talked about yesterday, made a good point. Like, the NBA does not need James Harden. If he wants a bag, if he wants a home, you know how you get that? You prove that you can still play at an all-star caliber level. You played really well last year, led the NBA in assist-to-turnover ratio. You're still kind of a walking 20, 10, and 8 guy. But you want to get that next bag and maybe one more bag. You produce well this year, and you get over being just a little petulant child, as Stephen A. Smith said, which we'll talk about here in a moment. Get on the floor and just produce. Speaking of Stephen A. Smith, he said that the Houston Rockets were ready to give him a long-term deal that he was seeking until he told Ime Udoka he wanted to be the focal point with the Houston Rockets. There's also buzz that the Rockets didn't want to sign Harden because he said he wanted to Ime Udoka to win the scoring title. Bro, you have to understand that, like, you're just not that guy anymore. Again, you're a walking 20, 10, and 8. That's fantastic. You still have great ability. You're a great player. I don't really stand for the personality attributes, but you can still ball. But to win an NBA scoring title, do you want to do that on a team that is winning 20 games per year? Because that's the only scenario in which that's possible. So story number 2, speaking of Stephen A. Smith, let's stay there. He ripped James Harden. He called him a petulant child because of how he's maneuvered his way out of Houston, how he's carried himself in these situations where he's done it with Houston, done it with Brooklyn, now trying to do the same in Philadelphia. And he said, I like him. He just needs to grow up because he's too much about himself and not the team. I like James Harden a lot, Stephen A. said, but he's been acting like a damn child. He also said petulant child as well. Daryl Morey is not looking bad now. The more James Harden reveals his disgust, the more petulant he looks and the worse that he looks. And that's really my thing, right? Like Harden, you have to take a look in the mirror and understand the narrative is out that you always come up short in the playoffs. You always choke away in the biggest of moments. You shrivel up. You don't have the leadership qualities that some organizations need you to have as the star player to just get past the noise, diminish the pressure cooker, and come through in a monster moment and just perform well. Like he gave up Game 7 against the Boston Celtics. When other teams, other players see that across the league, executives see that, you think that that makes them want to pay James Harden a long-term deal? When they're like, yeah, he might put up big numbers. That's always been the case. But in the biggest of moments, he just kind of falls flat, and then he acts like this. And once again, if things don't go his way, he's going to be asking and demanding for a trade for his 4th destination among 4 of his last destinations. It just is not sustainable. Look, James Harden, I've said this. You have an opportunity here to compete for an NBA championship. That's the one thing that's keeping you from being like great, instead of just being great and a transcendent player, which you already are. You get that NBA title, and the narrative certainly changes. A couple more notes I want to get to coming out of Colorado State. Media day, training camp underway, and Embiid on a long-term commitment. He said, if every year is going to be the same thing that doesn't put you any closer to winning an NBA championship, that gets frustrating. But I also believe it doesn't matter who's on the team. I'm always going to have a chance to win an NBA championship. He also added, I love Philly. I've been here my whole career. If we were to win a championship, it would be for the city and it would be for the fans. Now, very rarely, I know last dance with the Chicago Bulls, the last season when Kevin Durant was playing with the Golden State Warriors, there was some friction, there was some drama, but when you have a well-run business or a well-run sports organization, usually there is little drama. There are very few instances in which you have a star, all-star point guard who wants to get dealt and reports to training camp with this dark cloud hovering over them. The Sixers have had to deal with that with Ben Simmons. They've had to deal with it with James Harden. That is not ideal because we're talking about humans here. And with that, we're talking about human nature. When there's all that lingering awkwardness of James Harden no longer wanting a relationship with the only guy who's had his back his entire NBA career, who made him at one point the highest paid NBA player of all time, and he's calling him a liar that he never wants to play for him again, people feel that. People felt the Ben Simmons type of awkwardness. And if you're looking to compete for a championship, it's always better when there are less restrictions, there's less friction, and there's less drama. Look at a team like the Philadelphia Phillies right now and last year. Like, how fun are they to watch? Because they all rally around one another, they all really like one another, and they've all established the same identity of being Philadelphia tough. The Philadelphia 76ers, on the other hand, they can't seem to escape all of the carnival type of drama situations that have hit this organization. And it's a shame because they have had some opportunities to make some deep playoff runs and haven't made it past the second round of the playoffs since 2001. Roll call. If you're still rocking with us, that's the real one, roll call. Give me a real one down below. Don't forget to hit that sub button, and we'll catch you next time here on 76ers Now. Thanks for watching.